The Ukrainian government has announced that it plans to create what it's calling a humanitarian corridor in the Black Sea that would allow cargo ships that have been stuck in its ports since the onset of Russia's full-scale invasion to finally leave. This footage from Ukraine's military is said to show an attack in early August on one port, but industry sources say it's unlikely many shipping companies will participate in Ukraine's new plan due to safety fears. And it could be a major test of Ukraine's ability to reopen sea lanes, particularly after the grain deal it had with Russia was abandoned last month. This was one of the last ships to leave port before the grain deal's collapse. Russia has been trying to reimpose its control of the sea ever since and had no immediate comment on Ukraine's announcement. Sources in shipping and insurance familiar with Ukraine say they weren't informed about the corridor, and there are questions over its viability. They say it's unlikely many ships will agree to set sail. About 60 commercial ships have been stuck in port since Russia's invasion, and many of the ships' crews have already been evacuated. The Ukrainian Navy said in a written statement that its proposed sea routes to the United Nations shipping regulators, and a spokesperson told Reuters that it will put cameras on ships to show it's purely a humanitarian mission. A UN spokesperson said it hoped to resume safe shipping as it was under the grain deal.
Russia is blackmailing the world. This blackmail affects the lives of millions of Ukrainians and tens of millions more around the world, primarily in Africa and Asia, who face the threat of rising food prices and hunger. Ukraine makes no demands in relation to the deal. We simply wanted to continue operating and expand its capacity. We want our grain to be freely exported and reach foreign customers all around the globe. Whatever Russia is saying to excuse its behavior, please note that while blocking our ports, Moscow is increasing exports of its own grain, including the ones stolen from temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine. I call on all UN member states to firmly demand that Russia resume its participation in the deal in good faith and stop its hunger games. Russia must keep politics out of global food security.
His Excellency, Mr. Siarto, for his statement, and I give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Zbigniew Rau, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Poland.
Russia's unilateral withdrawal from the deal generally means one thing. Russia decided to fan the flames of its imperial war against Ukraine with rekindled economic aggression against the most needy and vulnerable states and societies of the Global South. We call on the parties remaining in the initiative to hold to their commitments so essential to the global food market.
I give the floor to Her Excellency, Ms. Annalena Baerbock, Federal Minister for Foreign Affairs of Germany.
Thank you, Mr. President. Russia has been adding fuel to the fire of a global food crisis. As a result, families on every continent struggle to make ends meet, and children go to bed hungry every night. And now, with announcement that it will withdraw from the Black Sea Grain Initiative, Moscow is threatening even more people, more children, with starvation. I therefore call, like others, on Russia to stop using hunger as a weapon, stop abducting children, stop your illegal war on Ukraine in the name of humanity.
I now give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Oleh Chalyk, Head of the Delegation of the European Union to the United Nations.
Very much, Mr. President. I have the honor to speak on behalf of the European Union. On the global consequences, we condemn Russia's decision to unilaterally terminate the Black Sea Grain Initiative. We thank the UN and the Secretary General and all involved for their efforts in attempting to reach an agreement. The initiative's suspension creates widespread uncertainty on global markets and exacerbates the dire situation of food importing countries, hurting the poorest and the most vulnerable the most. Russia continues to weaponize food and undermine global food security at a time when 258 million people face hunger. This is deeply irresponsible.
Due to Russian blockades, we are unable to export our foodstuffs, which are so sorely missing in the global markets. The world will face an acute and severe food crisis and famine in many countries of Asia and Africa. The shortage of foodstuffs will inexorably lead to political chaos, which can result in the falling of many governments and the ousting of many politicians. And you can already see this threat approaching by just looking at the skyrocketing prices for basic products on the world markets and in certain countries. This is the direct consequence of Russia's actions.
Цін на базові продукти на світовому ринку і в окремих країнах. Це прямий наслідок.
What Putin's war has done is not only try to wipe out the culture of the Ukrainians, decimate people and commit innumerable war crimes, but he's also prevented the grain, thousands of tons of grain that are locked up in those silos ready to be exported, but they can't get out through the Black Sea because they get blown out of the water.
The problem did not arise today, and not even in the past 3-4 months. Russia is absolutely not to blame for it, contrary to what some demagogues are now saying, trying to blame our country for anything happening to the world's economy.